Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tess, and today's tip is 431, and I'm just going to call it, we can't follow the crowd. In weight loss, we can't follow the crowd, or we'll get the same results. That's similar to everything we've been thinking about. And most know I've been reading the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and some of what he says relates to weight loss, but it relates to all areas of life, which is a lot of what like Doc V says. And he kind of refers to something as outlaw magic, and I love that term. And what he says is basically, don't follow the flock in thought or deed. And that's kind of the same thing Doc V says a lot too. Hi, Bonnie, good to see you. I heard today Doc V was trying to figure out what your name was, but he was on it. I'm not sure if you were able to correct him. But hello, good to see you. And what I realized is, like I said, I'm reading this book by Matthew McConaughey, and I'll put a link to it as soon as I'm done with this live. It's the Green Lights book, and I love the book. And he's talking about outlaw magic or outlaw logic. And it's that you don't follow the flock in thought or action. And that's so much of what Doc V has told us in our weight loss journey. You can't follow what the average person's doing. You know, Chris Nagel says it about money. Don't ask a broke person for advice. Somebody who's struggling with their weight and not succeeding, you don't want their advice. You have to kind of keep looking for the path, really probably in a lot of ways, that is unique to you. Because I think all of our journeys are slightly different, but we can get some guidance as to what our next step could be based on from people who've already succeeded at the journey. I thought it was interesting. Everybody probably is familiar. Matthew McConaughey is a rule breaker. He looks at life differently. He follows life differently. And his book is very interesting because he follows it in a different path. It was kind of cute in the book. He was talking about how his mother was a teacher for 39 years and never had a teaching certificate. She just kept telling him their certificate would come. I'm not encouraging bad behavior, but I just thought it was funny how he just kept moving forward. And he said kind of, and I thought this was interesting, and I think this is what he referred to as utilitarian. Basically, it's about be a egotistical utilitarian, and really, basically, what that means on it in the egotistical utilitarian, it's kind of like a cross on words, because on one end of it, you focus on self and stop focusing on others. But on the other side of it, and the reason is what they were saying, or what Matthew McConaughey was saying, is that when you become egotistical and you focus on yourself and you get yourself to the best place, the utilitarian part can help you to move forward in ways that you are helping others. So kind of really what he identifies is that in order to be the best that you can be for the people that are in your life, you have to heal yourself first. And once you get yourself ready, then you're ready to welcome the world in. So it's back to everything Doc V tells us. The work is internal first. We can't help anyone else till we fix ourselves. And I thought that was really interesting because Matthew McConaughey talks a lot about in Green Lights, you can't care about others. You have to work on self, and then you can give back. And I just thought that was so helpful. Another quote that he said I thought was so helpful is that we're in a world right now where there's a lot of anger and frustration and disappointment, and what I call, or from Law of Attraction from Zara Mahoon, being below the worry line on the emotional scale. We have a lot of energy that doesn't feel good, or moods that don't feel good, meaning sadness, sorrow, frustration. And Matthew McConaughey made a comment in what I was listening to yesterday, and he said, if we all made a sense of humor the default emotion, we'd all get along a lot better. And I totally agree with that. I actually think if I was going to get a tattoo, that's one I would get. And I'll repeat that. If we all made a sense of humor the default emotion, we'd get along a lot better. And I just think that's true. I think we're all very sensitive, and there's been so much going on. It creates sensitivity, it creates frustration, it creates distrust. And if we could get back to that more lighthearted type life, maybe it would make it better for everybody. Another thing that he was talking about in what I was listening to yesterday is don't spend anything with anyone that antagonizes your character. And I thought that was really hopeful too, because or helpful, because Doc V's often talked about too that our circle, if our circle is drawing us down, we may have to replace our circle. So don't spend any time with anyone that antagonizes your character. And I guess that's back to that idea of the mood scale. If you're at the worry line or below, you don't feel good. And if you don't feel good, you're not going to have a sense of humor. And if you don't have a sense of humor, things are going to be more painful, or you may make decisions that don't support the journey that you're trying to follow. He also talks about be brave and take the hill. And and in order to take the hill, you have to identify what your hill is. And it's more or less just keep moving forward. No matter what you face in life, you want to keep moving forward. And I've said before, for me, the past 2 years have opened up some doors that I didn't even really realize I wanted. And it's giving me opportunities to move forward that the only person who's blocking me is myself. So I have to keep moving forward. There's so much of an excitement in moving forward. And I think a great thing that this tribe and getting control of your weight loss and getting control of your emotions, living in that place of a sense of humor, letting humor be your default emotion, feeling good, working on self, being egotistical so that you can become a utilitarian and help other people. I think all of those things are feel good, because basically what he says is at several points in his career, he had to pull back and he had to work the self area. He had to decide what his next hill was going to be, and sometimes that meant pulling away. He talks about it. There were a couple of times, like when he was pushed into the rom-com arena, he said it was fun for a while and then it lost its it didn't have meaning to him anymore. So he literally ended up pulling out of Hollywood for about 2 years, and he wondered if he'd ever work again when he did that. But he said basically sometimes you say yes to your new opportunity by saying no to what's right in front of you this very minute. Sometimes you have to unbrand, disconnect from what you once were, so that you can rediscover and invent a new brand. And I thought that was so close to what's been going on in my life. I am, and I would say in the past 2 years, I've unbranded. I've looked at my life differently, and I've tried to see how I want the future to go forward. Because as a person with a BMI of 60, I live my life in a way, and I'm not saying anybody told me that was the way to live, but I was always seeking to live the way that I thought everybody else wanted me to live, which wasn't true to my inner guidance or the message from God. I needed to get back to what was inside, which is when he says egotistical utilitarian, that's that key right there. Getting in touch with who I am, getting in touch with the inner guidance, getting in touch with the message that's coming to me so that I can rediscover, reinvent, rebrand, and become who I was created to be so that I could move forward in life in a different way. And I am right on the edge of making some big changes, but they're changes that I know will lead me into places that I never would have seen if I hadn't gone down this path. And it has meant that, as I mentioned earlier, if anything is an antagonizes your character, you may have to evaluate how much you let it into your life. Because if it's a block to moving forward, you have to decide what is more important, the move forward or staying stuck in that antagonize. I'm not saying you don't love your family or you don't care about them or you don't keep them in your life, but you have to be aware that maybe the decisions they're making are the absolute best decisions for them, but they may not know what your internal dialogue is and what is the best decision for you. So I hope you find this useful. I will put a link to Matthew's book in this post as soon as I finish it. But I love this book. I'm enjoying it, even the audio, because he's the one that does the audio. And it's given me a lot of tidbits. And I've always thought he had an interesting life, and he really did. And his approaches are interesting. But, at first when I heard egotistical, I'm like, egotistical? Wait a minute. That's not the kind of person I want to be. But then when you realize it's just so that you can get yourself right, because the best gifts you have to offer are when you truly know who you are on the inside. So thank you for listening. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you for all who have served for us. I know Memorial Day is about those that we have lost, but it gives me just a sense to say thank you to those that are serving. I come from a long line, great-grandparents, grandparents, uncles, my best friend, one of my best friends is still in military now, almost 30 years in. So thank you everybody for service. Cousins, everybody. Have a beautiful, beautiful holiday for those in the U.S. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being here and listening. And remember, find out, as Matthew McConaughey would say, be that egotistical person that finds out who you are inside, who is truly in touch with the inner guidance and the message that you were given, and feeling good about your journey. And then you can reach yourself out to others, because you need to know yourself and be comfortable and happy with where you're going so that you're in touch with you, and then you can open yourself up to reach out to others in the world. Thank you and have a beautiful day.